This set of drawings I'm going to show you are carving patterns that I use regularly in my oak furniture. And I'll walk you through each page to tell you what's in this whole package. But first I want to thank my friend Curtis Buchanan for guiding me through this whole thing. If you feel like you've seen this before, that's because you've seen Curtis's plans for his Windsor chairs. So I lifted this whole idea from him with his blessing, and he sent me to Jeff Lefkowitz, who put these all together. I did the drawings and Jeff did all the planning and layout and design. So big thanks to those two guys for helping make this happen. So let's look at the first page and I'll tell you what's here. This top section is a diagram that I routinely use in my classes. When I'm teaching this, I'll show students how to carve this design, and then I'll draw all the separate steps on a chalkboard or whiteboard or pad of paper or whatever. So here are it's 8 steps to get there. The 9th step is the finished piece, and that will be sort of a notebook to help you if you're learning that pattern. And then a lot of these pages are how to then use that pattern to compose different designs. This bottom section, so that's called the S-scroll, and this bottom section is a crossed S-scroll, and it's the step-by-step in how to lay that out and carve it. Technically, there isn't much layout to it. It's really just establishing it with the curves of the tools and a little freehand work. So you'll see those done as step-by-steps, 9 steps here, 8 steps there. And then the finish up that first page, this is the front of a box or a horizontal panel, something like that. And here the S-scrolls, instead of running linear as they often do, they're running vertically this way. So just to show you those same step-by-steps, cutting it is just the same as cutting that, but now they're standing up rather than running in a row. And this small box is the tools I've used for these pages. This will cover all 4 pages. So Jeff has identified here and there where each tool comes into play. Page 2 looks again at what I have called the S-scroll and just shows you ways to employ it in your work. My work is mostly frame and panel stuff, so there's narrow bits for the framing and wider bits for the panels. And here you see in the top section of the page, you see a very simple S-scroll running in a long row. So they're sort of mirrored each other end to end. And that one just really has 2 leaves. And now a slightly different spacing. So instead of that longer spacing, a shorter unit with more leaves, but again running end to end, mirroring each other, each unit as it repeats across the stick. And these can run either horizontally or vertically, as can these two. And here, dealing with wider stock, so this can be the front of a small box or small panels in work, or wide framing members. I've seen it and I've used it in all those kinds of applications. But this is just an exercise in composition. If you have the S-scroll coming away from the center, you get this sort of pattern. If you have it coming in toward the center from the ends, you get that sort of pattern. All the same unit, just stacked and multiplied in different combinations. Down the bottom are box fronts. We looked on the first page at how to lay them out, standing up rather than running end to end. So this could be the front of a box or a horizontal panel. And here the S unit, the single unit, is 2.5 inches by 6, and has 1, 2, really 3 leaves in each section. And then I've drawn almost the same thing, but changed that spacing. So this is 3 inches versus that 2.5, and you have room for more leaves, and you get a different pitch to that S curve, so a different effect. That's there to show you how you can vary this, but also to drive home the idea that these aren't patterns that are dedicated to a particular size, but to a way to divide up spaces. And then finally on this page, a panel that is, in this case, I think 7 inches by 9. And this is a freehand S curve. The only layout is this center line, and the only tool used is a V tool. Here we're using the gouges to determine these shapes. Here you're using the V tool essentially to draw it as you carve it. And all of this will be illustrated in the YouTube videos. On to page 3. Page 3 runs vertically, so I had to change the setup, but it is focused on the wide panels that I use in things like chests and cupboards and the backs of a chair, or where sometimes the front of a cabinet. And so I've drawn the panels 10 inches by 15.5. And those dimensions are based on some chests from this body of work, this Devon, England, and Ipswich, Massachusetts work. I measured some of these examples, but they would range from 9 inches to 11 inches wide, all sorts of variations within there. I think that these guys split out their log, and depending on what size log they had, that determined what size panel they had. So don't be slavishly attached to this dimension. You can squish or expand these patterns very easily. And we'll look at some of that as we do subsequent sets. But this panel, for lack of a better term, have called the floral panel. And depending on what you're ready to see, there's an urn here with leaves coming out of it and flower shapes sprawling all out of it. Or my kids see crazy faces, and my friend Bob Van Dyke see all kinds of crazy faces in there. So I call it a floral panel. You can call it whatever you want. And when I first saw these patterns, I was really intimidated by them, thought I could never carve that. But what I found is you break it down into elements, and it's pretty straightforward. So this is in the book, Joiner's Work, but here there's an added bit where I've broken it down into steps, much like that S curve. And this is how I establish the spaces where then the details are carved in. So you'll see step by step adding one more element, 2 more elements in each step until you've got all the outline, and then it's just a matter of poking in the details. The other panel is what we call a lozenge or a diamond, either one. And so that layout I didn't break down into step by step because it's so straightforward. A horizontal and vertical center line, and then you draw that diamond. And this one I've copied from an existing work where outside the lozenge are lunettes that are very related to those intersecting lunettes that you'll see on page 4. And and this business inside the lunette, if you break it into just a quarter of that, it's very much related to the basic S-curve itself. And it's all going to be explicated in the video, but this gives you an idea of what's in that pattern. Over in the bottom corner of this page, one thing is an alternate for this design. And this is a freehand pattern that's maybe found more commonly than that one is. And so you have 3 options in doing this, you have at least 3 options in doing this panel. One is to just do the diamond and leave those areas blank. I've done that. The other is this lunette and then this leaf shape here. And this relates to some degree to some of the stuff in that panel. Over in this last corner is what's called the spandrel. It's the area outside that arch. And here, back on the panel itself, the first spandrel I did is just very simple leaf shapes with 2 gouges maybe. Here it has a small volute in the leaf shapes there, so a variation on the spandrels. And that will keep you busy with the wide stuff, and then we'll see on page 4 what to do with them. Page 4 contains some information about designing a chest, frame and panel chest, where the uprights, the stiles, extend below the body of it to form the feet or the legs, and then horizontal rails, panels, and then muntins dividing those panels up. We saw the panels in page 3. A couple of other things here are the crossed S-scrolls. Now on the first page was the step-by-step of how to establish those, but here they are as finished designs now. And done just like the regular S-scroll, in a narrower version with fewer leaves and a wider version with more leaves. And just like the upright S's on the box front, this could get wider as well, and then you just keep adding more of these sort of what I call diagonal leaves. And like the S-scrolls, the crossed S-scrolls can be used horizontally or vertically. These 2 are called lunettes, half circle, and a sort of basic pattern with just a few gouges, and then one with a little more geometry to it. And these always run horizontally. As I've been planning these pages, I've been saying, oh yeah, these always run horizontally. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen them running otherwise, and maybe I have once or twice. I couldn't find any examples in my files of photographs. I always do them horizontally. And they can be the framing parts in the chest, or expand that size of that and do it as a box front. Both of those cases apply. Or a horizontal panel or what have you. On the edge of this page is the what we call the style to the chest, the upright leg, and a leaf pattern there with a pinwheel in the middle of it, where the border sort of winds around that pinwheel and has this illusion of being woven. You see it in the overall and here in the detail. And then down below, just some basic geometry to lay out that overlap in that pinwheel. So that's what's contained in this set. just as a not final, but last word on it for now, these are all adaptable. I think I mentioned, or did in the text anyway, on the blog post, that these are not intended to function as templates, but as a pattern. And a pattern is something that you sort of go by, but here and there you might stray this way or that, expand something in dimension or shrink it in dimension, or have a different tool from this or that curve, but use these to draw from, and I hope they help you.